chatting now with Karen Carney. She's with Will Rogers World Airports, the Public Information and Marketing Manager, the City of Oklahoma City Department of Airports. Karen, it's always good to catch up with you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I mean, these are strange times, so everybody's kind of struggling along.
That is for sure. Let's just start there. What's it look like? How are things at the airport? Is it busy? Are there a lot of people still traveling, or is it just really, really diminished?
It's really diminished. I mean, we're seeing virtually no traffic at all. Our numbers they're not the official airline numbers, but just the number of people that actually went through the security checkpoint as of yesterday was down 94%. So, I think people have really gotten a message. I mean, that's been declining significantly for the last several weeks. We've kind of been in that 90 to 94% drop for a couple of weeks, and people are getting the message that they should only travel for essential travel, but it's certainly having an impact on the operations here at the airport.
Yeah, tell me more about that. In what various ways does it affect operations? That seems like that would trickle down to just about everything out there.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, in the terminal building itself, our concessionaires, that would be our food and beverage as well as our retail concessionaires, they've had to basically close almost all of their operations, and unfortunately, what goes along with that is the personnel that have had to be furloughed. So right now, they're operating at bare minimum, just to be able to kind of service and provide something at least for travelers, those few travelers that are coming out. Additionally, our sky caps, there's really no work for them, so a lot of them are not working. TSA is obviously extremely slow. It'll be a kind of a surprise when we do gear back up and things have to go. But and then kind of outside the terminal building, we've had to close two of our parking facilities, and our rental car buses. We used to kind of run what we call a bump and run, where they just run continually, but now we're holding for 15 minutes in between each bus so that we can help reduce staffing. Similarly with our parking operation, so it just kind of goes on down and truly has impacted everything out here.
That's one of the reasons I love chatting with you, Karen. You do such a good job of painting the picture, whether it's in good times or whether it's in not optimum times, such as now. That was a really good visual. I certainly haven't been out to the airport, and I imagine if it's 94% down, a lot of people haven't. Let's tackle a couple of things there. You mentioned TSA. What are some things that travelers do need to know if they are essential travelers and need to go through the Oklahoma City airport?
Well, TSA is certainly enforcing, social distancing. So people getting in line at the queue, which unfortunately there's not much of a queue line. But if you're wearing a mask, they do have to ask you to pull down the mask just so they can verify your identity with your driver's license. But then you obviously can wear that. As you go through the checkpoint, it's not too much different for the traveler. But the TSA officers, they're basically wiping down everything after a traveler uses it, the hard surfaces, the bins, that kind of thing, to just kind of help keep things disinfected and prevent the spread.
That's a good point. There are so many touch points at an airport.
Yeah,
There'll be a massive amount
that's
of trying to wipe things down.
janitorial. Right when this kind of started, we asked them to really focus on those touch points, and some of the things that we know are obvious, the handrails on the escalators, things like that. But the restrooms, fortunately, most of all of the public restrooms are touchless, so that's helps in right there. But other things, we all, airport employees and airline employees, everybody works here, we have badges, and using those, and we have to punch a code. And so wiping down the elevator buttons, there are a lot of touch points. But in addition to that, then the tenants are kind of following up with their own disinfecting. The airlines are wiping down their countertops, wiping down the machines that people use for the self check-in, that kind of thing. And of course, then the traveler, most are very conscientious and kind of bring their own whether it's sanitizer or disinfecting wipes.
All right, tell me more about the parking. You mentioned that a couple of lots, I believe, have closed. What are the changes there?
Well, when this really kind of started to hit, we were in spring break, and generally during spring break, we're actually trying to find places to park people overflow parking because we fill up every single lot. But we started, I mean, our down to less than 100 cars in a couple of those lots. So the first lot we closed was what we call our shuttle covered shuttle. It's awning parking lot 3, and then we started to see our lot 1, which is our economy lot. Virtually nobody was parking there, so we closed that. So the idea is that we still have our garage parking for those that want to park in the garage, but then in our lot surface lot, that's all we have is lot 2, just kind of to make more efficient timing for our shuttle bus drivers and also to help reduce some of our staff during this time.
I looked on your website, and Will Rogers World Airport is flyokc.com, just to see what sort of cancellations and delays. And it looks like there's a few cancellations. Are airlines continuing to run their flights as usual? Are there more cancellations? What's that look like?
Well, it's been really interesting because generally the airlines will put out, they'll publish their schedules for the following month. But even though the airlines have their published schedules, they've basically been operating on a day-to-day basis and canceling flights every day, kind of based on how many people are flying, where they're going, that kind of thing. We did this morning get our kind of a flight schedule for the next couple weeks into the first week of May, and we're seeing a 45% reduction in the number of flights. So significant, not quite half, but almost half. And then the other thing that we're seeing is some of our nonstop markets being suspended. We're assuming temporarily markets like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Philadelphia. Those are just a couple of them. So they're suspending those nonstop routes for right now. So we're hopeful that obviously those will all come back as traffic picks back up because we worked a long time to get those markets. But we're not the only airport suffering. I mean, every airport is going through similar kinds of changes and cuts.
So you're seeing some immediate changes due to the coronavirus and travel. How does this affect some of the longer term, the projects and construction that were underway out there?
Well, we certainly, as everybody, you're immediately looking for ways that you can, conserve your budgets. The terminal expansion is proceeding as projected, and that's still going on. But we did have a couple of other capital improvement projects that we've kind of put on hold. One of them was a roadway signage project, and some other kinds of projects that hadn't started yet. The ones that are actually underway, those are continuing, and we will finish those. But we'll just kind of have to see how our revenues come back as far as when we kind of start reintroducing new projects, except for those that are obviously needed for safety and air movement of aircraft.
All right, 2 final questions for you, and I'll let you go. First of all, your advice for travelers.
Well, we are still advising travelers to only do essential travel, and we get that there are some trips that you need to take, and certainly, healthcare workers or people working on emergency trips for various locations. And we understand that sometimes there's family emergencies or business emergency, that kind of thing. But we really want people to be careful and not just travel for the sake of traveling right now, because it just does increase the risk. But if you do travel, we need you to follow all the guidelines. We really need you to social distance. It's kind of easy right now because we're not crowded anywhere. So you have plenty of space to do that, and be mindful of the other people around you. We know that are some people that just quite aren't taking it seriously, but it's very serious to everyone. So just be mindful of everybody else around you and how they feel. The other thing I mentioned or forgot to mention was that the governor had in part of his executive order was that anybody coming to Oklahoma City from a highly impacted area needs to self quarantine for their stay or for 14 days, whichever is longer. So we've put up signage and messaging throughout the terminal building to remind those people that if you're coming to Oklahoma or you're returning, some people may have been on vacation and you're returning, you need to self quarantine. And that's kind of hard if you feel okay, but it's really important as well.
In those areas, she's talking about the New York area, the state of Washington, Louisiana, I believe California.
Right, exactly.
And final thing, and I'm asking everybody, just because obviously we're all a little displaced these days doing interviews remotely. How are you getting by these days?
Well, I think that like most people are, there's between the network of your coworkers and your peers and staying in touch with them as well as your friends and family. That's really the connecting point, I think, and when the sun comes out, that helps a lot too. So, it's one of those things that we will get past it, and that's what you kind of have to keep in your head all the time.
She's Karen Carney, talking about efforts there at Rogers World Airport. Always love catching up with her. Karen, I appreciate your time. You do a great job. Please stay safe.
Thank you. You too, Dave. I appreciate it.